I'm no music critic, but there's such a specific tone that Mega Man 4 reaches that makes it stand out so much from the rest of the series. Hey guys, Krishthani Complaino here, the internet's busiest amateur hepatologist, and it's time for a review of this new child from my sister-in-law. She's done better. Was Tyler, the Creator, one of the artists that sparked my fiery passion for music? The artist that changed my life and set me on the path that I'm on today? No, not really. You can give credit to good old Imagine Dragons for doing that. But Tyler has always been an artist that's interested me, and unfortunately, I've never really gotten a chance to listen to all of his stuff. But the projects that I have enjoyed, I've really enjoyed. Tyler is one of the best rappers of the modern era. It's an alternative style of hip-hop that's so distinct and recognizable. And despite evolving over a decade and a half of music, you still know a Tyler, the Creator song when you hear it. And Tyler himself is a really funny fella. He has so many quotable lines, like when he said, "I'm not finished," to that one girl. It tickled my funny bone in a way that few other bones have been tickled. Holy fuck, I'm an awful person. With 8 full studio albums to choose from, it begs the question. No, it doesn't. That's a logical fallacy. How would I rank every Tyler, the Creator album from worst to best? I don't know. I'd probably have to listen through all of them first. BRB, I'll be back in 10 minutes. Well, I'm a broken man. I've killed all my family and friends. Tyler, the Creator's fucking awesome! Let's get into the ranking. Also, I'm gonna really try to limit the music I play for this video because YouTube copyright is a bitch. Okay, now let's really dive in, get our fingers deep into this terrifying discography. Holy shit. Now here we go with number 8. Oh, waiter, give me a number. Yeah, Cherry Bomb's not good, in my opinion. You're allowed to feel any way you want about it, and I'll still love you. Mwah! Anyways, this album fucking sucks. The list of things I like about Cherry Bomb is very short. For one, the more soul-inspired tracks on this thing are very nice and provide a nice oasis from the chaos of the rest of the album. Find Your Wings and Two-Seater are definitely my favorite tracks off this thing, and would plant the seeds for the kind of music Tyler would make moving forward on Flower Boy and Igor and so on. Cherry Bomb was definitely a passion project for Tyler. An album for when he was at the top of the world and using his popularity to do whatever he wanted, which I can respect, but I'm pretty sure literally every other Tyler album after this could be considered a passion project of some sort, and also weren't the musical version of Miasma. Already, I started to see red flags on the opening track Death Camp. I like the guitar loop that plays on it. I think it's really catchy, but unfortunately compressed to shit. Things get especially tedious on the track Pilot though, which is borderline unlistenable with this ear-piercing synth that comes in now and then on the first verse, that completely overpowers the rest of the song. Tyler's vocals are just unintelligible on this one. As a matter of fact, that's a problem with the whole album. Tyler's vocals are turned way down to give way to instrumentals that just sound bad. That's not even the worst of it though. The title track Cherry Bomb might be my least favorite in all of Tyler's catalog. The idea of raw noise blocking out the speakers and making everything else difficult to hear, replicating the feeling of a bomb going off, is a lot cooler in concept than it is in execution. Not to mention lyrically and concept-wise, this is by far Tyler's least interesting album. The themes of fame and popularity feel incredibly unexplored here, and were done better on albums after and prior to this one. And some of the writing here is just plain odd. Like the song titled F***ing Young/Perfect is literally about Tyler struggling with his feelings towards a girl who's 5 years younger than him. Why would you want to write a song about that? So much of this album comes off as really tryhardy also, trying to replicate the controversy and edge the previous works had, which isn't as compelling when you're doing the same old tricks 4 albums in. The record is just all of Tyler's worst qualities packaged together in one massive piece of I can see the appeal. It's definitely his most ambitious and risky album, but I also think music should be, I don't know, listenable. All in all, it's not the worst thing I've heard or anything like that, but certainly my least favorite of Tyler's discography.
No homo. I'm not gay. Fact.
You know, for being made by an edgy teenager on an FL Studio free trial, Bastard is a surprisingly solid debut record. Bastard is kinda weird to look back on, since it's easily the most forgotten album Tyler's made, probably because some sources don't even consider it an album. It's not on any major streaming platform. Its scope is comparatively smaller than the rest of Tyler's work, clearly being a scrappy little low-budget mixtape cobbled together by him and some friends. But they really made the most of what they had, if you ask me. A lot of the beats are simple but have a lot of personality to them. Taking the vocals out and looking at the album from an instrumental standpoint, a lot of the tracks feel off, a little bit hostile, like they're trying to lure you in before doing something terrible to you. Some tracks feel just slightly detuned and out of key, which makes the whole project feel uneasy and wrong. It's great. But you can also see a lot of distinct Tylerisms in the composition as well. It's very spacey with a lot of neo-soul elements, which do get perfected and refined later down the line by, humble beginnings. On a track-by-track basis, however, it's kind of weak. You take the opening track Bastard, for example, and it's the longest song on the album, and you can really feel it. I think it establishes the concept for the record well enough, with an overarching theme of Tyler talking to this therapist about his absent father and being raised as an only child. But also, the song's just really boring. It consists of this one piano measure that just repeats again and again, and I know that's how rap music works. I'm not fucking stupid, I'm fine with repeating, but the composition on this one is just so basic and uninteresting. While there are moments where other instruments come in for a second, they aren't enough to really leave an impact. There's a lot of features on this album, mostly Tyler and his friends from Odd Future goofing around for a track. They're usually considered the worst songs on the album. The song Tina is really odd with very distorted and compressed instrumentation. I can't tell if it's genius or just straight ass. Probably the latter though. There are a fair amount of tracks on here I really like. Like, Inglorious is just a perfect conclusion. The chord progression on the synths is so horrifyingly depressing. It's so cold, very haunting, which is appropriate considering the subject matter. I'd easily call it my favorite song on the album and one of my favorite Tyler songs, period. Is it worth sitting through the whole record to listen to it though? I mean, probably not. Especially since the lyrics get into a lot of uncomfortable stuff. Like, okay, this album delves into the troubled teenage years for Tyler Gregory Okanma, talking about how his father left him from a very young age and led him down a path of violence and crime. And that's expressed in a lot of ways, but easily the most frequent one is Tyler writing about him raping and murdering teenage girls. Yikes. Obviously, he didn't do any of this, it's all a facade. It's clear that Tyler is just playing into his deepest, darkest thoughts, which is also kind of fucked up in his own way, like, why are you thinking this? But whatever, it's fine. Until you write a song about killing and raping an actual girl who rejected you. That's really fucked up. I like the instrumental on the song Sarah, but I really can't defend it otherwise. It's one thing to write a bunch of edgy shit about being a sexual abuser. It's obvious shock humor, but I can't lie and say it doesn't work. It does make the album come off as more malicious. But when you start to involve real-world people who are just minding their own business in it, that's where I cross the line. Like, were there no stop signs or signals in Tyler's head when he was making this? Jesus Christ, man, show some restraint. If one of my friends showed me this, just a little project they were working on, I'd say good job and then quietly block their number. As a whole, I'd say this is a decent, albeit inconsistent starting point. There were plenty of tracks on here I really enjoyed with some really interesting composition and great performances from Tyler. Unfortunately, I think it's severely bogged down by its really disturbing lyrical content, which makes it a difficult project to recommend. But if you know what you're getting into, I think you'll find it's a surprisingly enjoyable product for being made so early in Tyler's career. Did you know that this album got Tyler banned from coming to the United Kingdom for 4 years because it encouraged people to commit acts of terrorism? Dude, American kids do that all the time. Have y'all seen the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yo, I'm a f***ing homosexual. What?
Next up is Goblin, and honestly, this is only barely better than Bastard in my book. There's a lot of pros and cons to each of them, for as inconsistent as Bastard is, it is somehow more consistent than Goblin. But on the other hand, Goblin has more tracks I enjoy on it, even if it has to balance things out by making tracks I just absolutely loathe. Higher highs, lower lows kind of situation. Concept-wise, the album continues off the themes of Bastard. Tyler is facing the consequences of his actions with the things he said on the last album, struggling and trying to cope. I've seen some people say this makes him come off as obnoxious, having to inform the viewer that he doesn't actually do anything he says in the songs, but I honestly really like it. It adds a level of insecurity to the character he's playing here, which is especially relevant because Tyler is significantly more vulnerable on this record. You got tracks like Her detailing Tyler's crush on this girl who he genuinely really likes, wanting all the corny relationship stuff with her, only to find out that she's taken by another guy. It's really sad. And the track Window stands out especially for being a frightening and dramatic climax that was built on growing tension between his friends throughout the album, with everything boiling over and all of them shooting each other by the end, Tyler feeling extreme distress for what he did. And Golden is an excellent finale, Tyler finally standing up to the fabricated therapist in his mind. It leaves the album on a really good note. Besides that though, this thing is a mess. Radical sounds really ass. Feels so bloated with all the reverb and the instrumentation. Whatever vibe it was trying to go for, it does not hit, man. Yonkers is one I really wish I could like more, considering the amazing music video of Tyler eating a bug, spitting it out, and then hanging himself. Peak fiction. But I don't know, I found it to be kind of repetitive, especially with the kind of metallic sweeping noise that repeats again and again and again and again and again. There's probably a name for that, but I don't have a good enough ear to know what it is. If you've listened to the song, you'll immediately know what I'm talking about though. Transylvania is just kinda ass. Tyler's flow on this one feels like he's rushing too much. The vocals on this track are not great and I just cannot take it seriously. There's a general issue with mixing throughout the whole thing. A lot of the synths on here could sound a lot better, especially on the song BSD. I'm not gonna say the real title out loud. It's never as bad as Cherry Bomb, but definitely something that could be improved. Fish and the hidden track Bop and Bitch don't really do anything for me. They don't add much to the album, and the lyrics are just kinda gross, honestly. Not as bad as the stuff on Bastard, but not really fun to listen to either. But even with those weaker tracks, there's still plenty of good to find here. Love the singing on the chorus of She. It really adds to the dreamlike quality of the song. Or I guess in some cases a nightmare considering the subject matter. But hey, speaking of nightmares, Nightmare. It's pretty fucking good. Whenever I listen to it, I just feel so immersed in Tyler's little depression cave. But as a whole, it just kind of comes together as an incoherent experience. Pick a few tracks off the listing, redo the mixing, and you got a real solid record on your hands. But in its current state, it leaves a lot to be desired.
Oh yeah, you could kill him.
Wolf feels like a natural evolution from the last two, being easily the most polished and consistent of Tyler's first 3 albums. Production and mixing is typically top-notch. Plenty of instrumentals remind me of 90s video game music. The use of organs throughout give very N64 vibes to me. I know that a lot of the production on this album was inspired by Pharrell Williams' band Nerd, but I haven't listened to those guys, so I'm just working with what I know. Point is that it's a major improvement from the unreliable mixing of the last 2. Across the nearly 20 tracks on this thing, there's a surprising amount of variety. There's some really tasty guitar work on Answer. The jazz influence on Tree Home 95 makes it stand out nicely from the rest of the track list. I love the piano on this one. There are consistent motifs used throughout the album, and it usually doesn't stray too far from its story and sound, usually. There are a few songs that feel like distractions from the concept. Like Colossus is a fine track, but skipping between the summer camp story to Tyler talking about his popularity and fans is a little off-putting. And there's a few songs on here that are like that. At least there's nothing on here I'd consider outright bad. Even Trash Wang, the parody track, isn't insufferable. I don't even think it's the weakest on the album. At worst, this record's average, and at best, it's really fun. Not to say there aren't things to nitpick, though. I think the track Awkward leaves a lot to be desired, with Frank Ocean's auto-tuned vocals and the outro feeling kind of muffled to me. Also, why does he need auto-tune? We've clearly seen he's capable of holding a note on Goblin. I don't really see the benefit in doing this. The whole track has a bunch of weird vocal effects slapped on it, it just makes it sound so much worse. But with a few exceptions, the album is pleasant to listen to. Not masterful by any means, but it's got personality. This album actually tries to tell a full story with a unique setting of a summer camp, multiple characters, and drama! Now, am I going to act like this is the most emotional and well thought out story ever written? Yes! Album of the century! Get this man an Oscar right now! I think it ends with Wolf being caught masturbating in the cabin. But it's really charming. The rivalry between the two main characters, Wolf and Samuel, is surprisingly captivating, even if it's not trying to be the greatest, most impactful story of all time. For the most part, it's taken lightheartedly, which is a very welcome change from his previous efforts. As I've said before, Wolf is way more consistent than the last two. There's way more to enjoy here. But I do think Bastard and Goblin are going to stick with me a bit more. Whether the edgy stuff worked is up to you, but I do think it did a great job of hooking you in, even if it was mostly shock value. Wolf doesn't really have that, but I do think otherwise it does everything the previous records were trying to do better. The lighthearted tone makes this more accessible compared to the offensive nature of Goblin and Bastard. It's an improvement on almost every front. Flower Boy is where Tyler finally turns over a new leaf. This is Tyler's most emotional album yet. tackling themes of sexuality, relationships, deconstructing how he treats the people around him. While Cherry Bomb felt like Tyler screaming from the top of the rooftop, "I'm on top of the world, f yeah!" Flower Boy takes some very needed steps back and makes an album that is soft, sweet, and beautiful. I've always liked the cover art for this one a lot. This abstract field of sunflowers against the gorgeous green mountains and the gradient sky, it perfectly represents the music, being a much warmer and colorful album than Tyler's previous efforts. We can see this on the first track, Forward. It starts out kind of grimy, something about the beginning of this one always gave me parking lot vibes. Please tell me I'm not alone in that. But the song slowly expands, offering space for guitar melodies and backing vocals that eventually boil over when the synths are finally stringed into the second half. See You Again is Tyler's most popular song on Spotify for a reason. That chorus, the 20/20 20/20 vision, Cupid hit me with precision, it's so fucking catchy. Kaylee Uchis singing here is so good and adds so much to the intimacy of the track. Easily the best song on the album. Come to think of it, the features on this record are spectacular. They add a lot to the overall experience. Rex Orange County and Anna of the North at the beginning of Boredom is fantastic. Frank Ocean on 911, Estelle on Garden Shed, these guys are great. But it doesn't distract from Tyler's concept throughout the album. At its core, it's still a record about Tyler and his emotional struggles. And I think it all ends on a really underwhelming note. November and Glitter don't add a lot to the album for me. I think the voicemail with Tyler finally exclaiming his love at the end of Glitter is neat but ultimately kind of hollow. And Enjoy Right Now Today is a really weak ending for me, especially since Glitter ended with Tyler confessing to his crush and this song has no lyrics to elaborate or conclude on that, since it's an instrumental. It's just kind of there, nor does it feel like a satisfying conclusion, so by this point in the album I'm pretty much checked out. If you wanted to leave things open-ended, you could have just concluded with Glitter. You didn't need to throw this track in there. Despite that though, Flower Boy is a pretty nice album. With incredibly catchy hooks on plenty of the tracks, it's a really pleasant listen and his first truly great album, even if I think it has a cavalcade of issues holding it back. If you ask me, Call Me If You Get Lost feels like a big conglomerate of all of Tyler's albums beforehand while still remaining fresh and distinct. You got themes of romance, fame, Tyler reflecting on his past, making references to his previous works, and a lot of the production choices could easily be compared to Goblin or Cherry Bomb, albeit in a much more competent and entertaining way. The composition and mixing on this record is just so crisp. You got catchy bangers like Manifesto and Juggernaut with pounding bass and drums, and the features on those tracks continue the song perfectly. What's Your Name has a really nice summer vibe to it. Manifesto sampling this old Jimmy Smith song fits really well. Perfectly showcasing this album's versatility in sound and tone is Massa, this really spacey track with Tyler reflecting on his previous records and how they related to his life at the time. You got this theme of Tyler traveling around the world at his peak of fame, surrounded by hype men. There's not quite an overarching story, but it uses this template to branch off into other song topics and themes. Admittedly, I don't find this the most interesting concept for a Tyler album, but it's undeniably executed well. A majority of these tracks are just really fun to listen to, even if there are a couple in the second half that overstay their welcome if you ask me. Like, I don't know, Wilshire is good, but did it really need to be 8 minutes long? Kinda drags a bit. But this is still an album that's chock full of personality and hard-hitting production. It may not have been a creative leap like Flower Boy or Igor was, but it's still one hell of a good time.
Chromacopia.
Tyler's most recent project is definitely his most mature and versatile to date. While there are many emotions displayed across these 50 or so minutes, there is still a big central theme of growing up, coming of age if you will. There's plenty of interludes featuring Tyler's mother teaching life lessons to him, storylines of love and Tyler talking about his fear of commitment, which we can see on the song Hey Jane specifically, lyrically going through two sides of a relationship and their reactions to a sudden pregnancy. Chromacopia feels like looking over the edge of a massive cliff, looking back on Tyler's past experiences and how they'll influence his decisions moving forward. I absolutely love this concept. Plenty of Tyler's albums feel very reactionary to what was happening in his life at the time, Goblin specifically. I think Chromacopia in comparison is timeless, because despite any references made, at its core, it's an album about moving forward. Chromacopia also has a ton of variety in its track list. Saint Chroma is a perfect opener, coming in with this hard, stomping drum beat, and slowly these synths fade in and the choir just elevates the track more and more. Can you feel the light Inside, can you feel the fire? Sorry. Until this beautiful composition gets swept away by an immaculate change-up. The track breaks down in such a cinematic and powerful way. I love this song. There's a ton of variety here. Beautiful guitar ballads on Tomorrow and Like Him, West Coast inspired rap on Ratata, even some weird shit like Balloon, which does not sound like your typical Tyler song at all, but it's still incredibly memorable and fun. I'm getting ahead of myself though, because I got my good old friend Alex Music Reviews to talk about the rest of this record, because I'm lazy and didn't want to write more of a script. Take it away, Alex.
Thank you, Christian, for having me. I am both honored and amused that you consider me qualified. Now, on the matter of chromacopia. As you can tell by the cover, this album has to do with masks, specifically how people use masks to hide themselves. Obviously not physical masks as depicted, but more accurately someone may mask their insecurities with their ego or their relationship tendencies. Chromacopia sees Tyler taking his mask off, get it because I referenced the name of the song, and walking through and accepting some of his deepest insecurities, like his inability to commit to romantic relationships or his mixed feelings about potentially becoming a father. He also references how, by unmasking yourself, you can let more love and understanding into your life, which not only benefits you, but also the people around you, specifically women. He addresses social issues stemming from sexism, most notably the prevalence of single motherhood and how it reinforces the traditional gender hierarchy. Awareness of these issues ought to be one of our main takeaways from this album. We have to recognize the place this holds in his greater discography. After gaining stardom with Flower Boy, crafting conceptual genius with Igor, and relishing in his glory with Call Me If You Get Lost, it seemed as though career-wise, Tyler the Creator had nowhere else to go. But of course, as he's known to do, Tyler pushed back. He went deeper and more personal than he ever has before. People compare this album's role to Mr. Morale, which I think is a great parallel. You can see the same pattern in Kendrick's discography with Good Kid, followed by T-Pap, followed by Damn. This is the kind of progression that separates a good artist from an all-time legendary one. Sorry for getting off track. My followers know I can't resist any opportunity to talk about Kendrick Lamar. So back to Chromacopia. It's also a sonic masterpiece. You have beautifully composed neo-soul tracks that are just as lush and maybe even more colorful than the material on Flower Boy. In contrast, you're getting hard-hitting, quirky West Coast beats that match the intensity of Call Me If You Get Lost. Basically, you're getting everything Tyler's done previously and then some. It's a wonderful album, easily one of the best rap soul albums of the last few years, and is an essential chapter in the life of Tyler Okonma. Thanks again, Christian. Follow my reviews.
No problem, Alex Reviews Music. I agree with pretty much everything he's said. You can find his Instagram in the description. He makes some pretty baller stuff. Anyways, I'm tired. It's 1 a.m. Let's get on to number 1. Yeah, I'm not even gonna lie, Igor is fucking incredible. It's not perfect per se, it's hard to say any album really is, but it just does so much right and so little wrong. To start, the instrumentation on this one is consistently excellent. It doesn't do anything that new or exceptional for Tyler, but they're all composed in such a fascinating and creative way. The title track, Igor's Theme, kicks off this record with this kind of uneasy, droney synth that the rest of the song builds off of. It establishes Igor as this character, and the following track, Earthquake, shows the current state of his relationship with his boyfriend. While this may come off as a cheery, heartful track, the lyrics really do reveal how difficult this relationship is. Tyler pleading, "Don't leave, it's my fault." It's such a powerful line, taking accountability for issues in order to just keep this person around, when it would probably be better to leave. There's a lot of ups and downs in the relationship Tyler presents, with tracks like Puppet feeling like he can put all his trust into his partner, or I Don't Love You Anymore, which is Tyler being incredibly petty over this silly breakup, and that's what this record is. It's a breakup album, and one with a lot of powerful introspection into the feelings that one has during moments like these. There's a sense of adolescence and well-meaning immaturity displayed throughout the whole thing, being unable to move on from this person, feeling like you're running out of time to find a relationship, which is especially a factor on the gorgeous closer, which might be my favorite track on the album, Are We Still Friends? This track is just an instant classic in every way. It gives me goosebumps like no other Tyler song does. Such an emotional performance, the desperation in Tyler's voice here is unmatched, and that scream at the end just, oh. It's the perfect way to cap off Tyler's most ambitious and enjoyable album, and one of the best rap albums of the 2010s period. And that's my Tyler the Creator list. Let me know how you'd personally rank each of these in the comments. I read every one of them, that's true, even the bad ones. There's a lot of bad ones. You guys need to stop that. But in other news, I have an announcement to make. From June 19th to the 21st, I'll be attending VidCon Anaheim 2025. I'm not a featured creator or anything, but if you see me in the convention hall, feel free to come up and chat. This is what I look like, by the way, for your information. Anyways, I don't really know how to end this. Here's a funny video I found on the internet.